Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us. It's a beautiful day in the Carolinas. I know all of us would love to be outside, and really thank you for taking time to spend a little bit of time with us virtually on what we think is a really important topic for our region. My name is Tushar Chickleeker. I head up Nexsen Pruet's economic development team, and I'm going to be moderating today's session that's focused on innovation in the food and beverage industry. Our economic development team thought it would be a good idea to have a more robust discussion in this area, given the surge of food and beverage projects, agribusiness projects that we've seen in the Carolinas. So we're going to explore some key trends. Our idea here, each one of these panels has the knowledge, substance, and frankly, interest to be able to have an entire session dedicated to it. Our intent here is to just provide a spotlight, to give you all, to the extent that you don't have it already, a window into some of the amazing things that are happening in our region. So before we start, I've got a little bit of housekeeping. Today's session is being recorded. So if you know a colleague who couldn't make it and wish they had, there'll be plenty of opportunities to rewatch the session. Feel free to connect with other attendees or pose questions to the panel in the chat. You can message any of the panelists directly, or you can send them as a group. I've seen some of the people that are on the RSVP list for this, so I'm certain there will be some robust on-topic and off-topic conversation occurring. If you like this session, heck, even if you don't like this session, we hope that you join our next one that we're going to be doing. It's going to be focused on workforce issues in the food and beverage manufacturing industry. So with that, let's turn to our first panel. This topic is focused on food parks in the US. That's a concept that is fairly prevalent in Europe, but it's not one that's been brought to the US yet. So our first panel is going to explore the Agriculture Technology Campus, the largest project of its kind in the history of South Carolina. It's the largest opportunity zone project in the history of our nation thus far. And so it's a remarkable project, frankly. It's a growing project, and it was announced in 2020. And it's the concept of a food park that it's a perfect example of it that we'll describe further. So let me introduce our panelists. We've got a great group here, all of which were integral in landing this project in South Carolina and in our region. First, we have Zeb Portanova. Zeb is the CEO of GEM Opportunity Zone Fund, an impact investment fund focused on opportunity zones in the US, doing really remarkable work. Zeb has an interesting history. He was previously COO for Vestergaard, a global health company focused on malaria prevention and public health. But then he was also, and where I had the pleasure of first meeting Zeb, was president and CEO of Swiss Chrono USA in Barnwell, South Carolina. Then we have Ted Campbell. Ted is a senior project manager for the South Carolina Department of Commerce. Ted has been in this business and has probably forgotten more than most of us will ever know. And still knows more than most of us will ever know. He's been in this business for 30 years, and not trying to date you there, Ted, but it's impressive, and has helped bring hundreds of millions of dollars to South Carolina, and focuses for the Department of Commerce on these kinds of projects, agribusiness projects, food and beverage. Then we've got Laura Jordan. Laura is Assistant Director of Agribusiness Development at the South Carolina Department of Agriculture. In nearly a decade with the Department of Agriculture, she continues to push agribusinesses to the forefront of economic activity across South Carolina. Then finally, we have, last but not least, definitely not least, Mr. Black, we've got Danny Black. He's the President and CEO of the Southern Carolina Alliance. That is a regional economic development alliance we have in South Carolina that represents Allendale, Bamberg, Barnwell, Beaufort, Colleton, Hampton, and Jasper counties. And he's been with that group for nearly 20 years and has been part of some of the biggest announcements our state has seen. So with that, I think a great level set for this particular panel would be, we've got a video we'd love to show you. I think it's a great introduction to this project.
With generations of agricultural roots as its foundation, South Carolina's Agriculture Technology Campus is revolutionizing agribusiness in the Palmetto State. The more than $300 million Hampton County development, anchored by massive greenhouses, will provide jobs, new markets for existing farmers, and support ongoing food production research throughout the Southeast.
Food production from greenhouse operations that we're talking about here is what's known as controlled environment agriculture, a high-tech approach to indoor farming to maximize yields while protecting the crops from the outside elements like our unpredictable weather, our very predictable humidity, and even hurricanes.
A partnership between Mastronardi, Ledestri Food and Drink, Clearwater Farms, and GEM Opportunity Zone Fund will provide for the largest agricultural opportunity zone investment in the country, creating more than 150 jobs.
All this helps pave the way for citizens to visit their local grocery stores, to get pesticide-free, locally grown produce that wasn't shipped in from Mexico, which traditionally results in extra costs, increased waste, and reduced freshness during transport.
Using recycled rainwater and other sustainable farming techniques, strawberries, tomatoes, and other fresh fruits and vegetables can be grown and harvested year-round, working outside of local farmers' growing seasons so as not to cut into their profits. Those farmers will benefit from the ATC's on-site co-packing facility, designed to streamline the process of food processing and packaging, opening new markets for South Carolina growers. And the research opportunities, in coordination with universities and trade schools, will help develop more future-focused, sustainable farming techniques for years to come.
It's technology like this and other places that really drives and leads this type of project in providing for affordable, nutritious, healthy, safe food, not only for Americans, but for people all over the world.
The Agriculture Technology Campus, building on South Carolina's agricultural past for a sustainable future.
Great video, and just provides a brief window into that project. And if nothing else, it shows that even the tech companies in our country cannot keep up with the innovation of our agribusinesses as a result of that streaming issue we had there. So apologies. So let's jump into some questions. So Zeb, we talked about your background, a little bit of healthcare, flooring, vast experience in a number of different areas. Why this project? Why this industry?
Yeah, well, it's a good question too, Shar. I mean, I think if you start with consumer trends and consumer demands, the customer is king in many ways. You look at the fact that the vast majority, 90% of all leafy greens and the vast majority of tomatoes that are consumed in North America are coming from outside of the country or California. So you got to ship those in, leafy greens as an example, you got to ship those in from Salinas Valley in California for all of us who consume them on the Eastern Seaboard. And that's expensive. Those of us who are consumers are getting lower quality products. And so if you start with the consumer in mind first, I mean, the ability to create and grow pesticide-free, locally grown produce on the Eastern Seaboard really doesn't exist, and certainly not with the synergies by having a greenhouse operation for leafy greens and tomatoes, coupled with a Ledestri co-packing facility, where if they had a tomato that otherwise would have to be, because it had a blemish on it and tasted great, otherwise would have to be thrown away or used as fertilizer, can be converted into a salsa that Ledestri can sell to Publix or Kroger. And all this can be delivered in less than 24 hours, where if you were shipping it in from Mexico or Canada or California, I mean, there's a lot of cost and a lot of time and a lost freshness associated with it. So if you start with the consumer, it's pretty logical that this is new technology that we haven't adopted very successfully yet, or it just hasn't had a lot of momentum behind it in the U.S., but it's been happening in Europe for quite a long period of time. And we see line of sight to becoming the most technologically advanced agricultural facility in the world when completed.
And certainly, I'd imagine that the desire for this, the need for this, was only ramped up as a result of what's happened across the world, frankly, over the last 12 to 16 months.
COVID has really opened the eyes for many people regarding supply chain issues. We can all go back a year. It was about a year ago, right, when we were everybody was going on lockdown, and we were scrambling going to the grocery stores. And I mean, all of us who remember having a really hard time finding the items that we needed. That was everything from meat to vegetables to sanitation, Clorox wipes, for crying out loud, toilet paper, all that stuff. Those are all supply chain related issues. Some of them were coming in from overseas, from other countries. Some of them were supply chain issues in the US where factories got shut down because of COVID. So, it amplified the fact that you need to have diversified supply chains across our country, especially if you want to have a product that you can take from the moment it's picked to the moment it's in a grocer's store for a consumer to buy. I mean, less than 24 hours from South Carolina to, within 500 miles of us, which covers like 50 million Americans. I mean, yeah, COVID really opened a lot of eyes around the need to have diversified supply chains. And we're seeing that across all the consumer trends as well.
So Zeb, the concept of a food park, and that's a very, I guess, boiled down term because there's a lot more to it than just two words, right? Food and park. But it's unique to the to the U.S. and certainly to our region. Explain for those of us that don't know, how do the individual components of the project work synergistically together?
Sure. So we are unique in the country whereby we're placing multiple growers and end users and technology companies in one location. Like co-locating everyone has really never been done at this scale before. And you'd think that would be something that people would have previously attempted, but traditionally it's been, Paul Mastronardi has a tomato greenhouse and they grow tomatoes. And they might have a berry greenhouse and they might have, cucumbers and leafy greens. And Clearwater Farms has leafy greens, but they've never all located together, and certainly not around a Ledestri co-packing facility, which is kind of like the heart of the ATC. So, you can take a tomato, either an A grade or a B grade tomato. You can take basil that comes out of Clearwater Farms and convert it into fresh arugula. And the Ledestri family will run that through a special machine called a HPP machine, and it can have 30 to 60 days of fresh shelf life without adding any preservatives to it. So you just have these really unique synergies that have never been done before. And it doesn't come without challenges. I mean, we've had our own unique challenges bringing everybody together. We've had utility issues that we've worked through with the help of Danny and Ted and Jack Schuler and everybody at Ag and Commissioner Weathers. We've had humidity issues coming down south with, and you saw that in Commissioner Weathers' comments. I mean, we have consistent humidity that the Northeast doesn't, which is unique for greenhouses. And we've had to, bring on engineers to help us solve those. But, bringing this unique group of users together that creates a lot of synergy. And then, bringing on some technology companies like Core Scientific to help us blockchain the entire facility for all products, to help us look at robotics and artificial intelligence to make sure that we're growing the most advanced, fastest, most efficient produce out there. And again, pesticide-free, locally grown for 50 million Americans in the Southeast. I mean, it's really exciting.
Fantastic, Zeb. Thank you for that. What has surprised you most about, I guess, your progression in developing this project? What is happening that you didn't necessarily think would be happening as quickly as it has?
Well, there's probably a couple of things. First, and massive credit to Commissioner Weathers and South Carolina Department of Agriculture. They went out and basically wrote or hired a group of experts to write a white paper on controlled environmental agriculture a couple of years ago. And I read that when we first started this project, and I read it again about 3 months ago. And everything I read in there, 98% of it was spot on accurate after diving super deep and talking to all the greenhouse operators, talking to all of our consultants. I mean, what they put together was spot on. And so that was really surprising for me to say, sometimes when you do an academic exercise, it doesn't always come out the exact way that the reality is on the ground. And this one really has. So credit to them for taking the initiative originally a couple of years ago, saying this is an opportunity we should be investing in. So that's a good surprise, right? It's like, hey, the science and the data and the strategy align with what really needs to happen on the ground. I'd say probably another surprise has been COVID and the need for diversified supply chains. We talked about that earlier. I'd say also, every project that I've ever been involved with comes with unique challenges. They're never super easy. If they were super easy, I think everybody would do them. We've had to go back and relook at a handful of things related to utility and utility rates. That's come with some challenges, and Danny Black's been a great partner in helping analyze those and come up with the right solutions, and bringing the right partners on board as that continues to expand. I mean, we signed an opportunity with Core Scientific to blockchain this entire park, so that a consumer who's sitting down in Florida or South Carolina or North Carolina can scan a simple code and realize that this was the product they're eating actually came without pesticides and was locally grown. So, you bring all those people together, and it's great to see. What was the line from the A team? It's really good to see a
Love
plan.
it when a plan comes together.
That's
Words
right.
to live by.
That's right.
Words to live by.
We still have to build it. And that's,
Right.
it's going to have its own hiccups, and we're going to navigate through those. But I've got a great team behind us and a great number of partners. And when we do have challenges, we'll confront them head on.
And Zeb, just to close your piece of the conversation, just to remind folks, what's the scale of the project? How from a capital investment perspective, from a geographic perspective?
Yeah, so it'll be well north of 300 million. I think you saw 314 million. And we're talking with a number of users that aren't public yet that certainly could increase that number fairly significantly. 1,500 jobs in creation over the next 5 years, including the distribution center. And again, that could keep going up based off of the users that we're talking to and the interest we're receiving. And it's going to take about 5 years in different phases to build. So, that maybe it's going to be first phase. I think we're looking at hoping to have that finished by the end of 2022, maybe early 2023, based on timing and certain approvals and grants that we're working with. But generally speaking, that's about the scope of it. The project pretty well. What did I forget to mention there, Tushar?
No, I mean, I think what's been clearly evident is the partnership amongst all of the stakeholders in this, whether it's the county, the state, the Regional Economic Development Alliance.
So you're about to cut me off probably to move to somebody else. I'm going to say this. I have worked around the planet. I've worked in numerous states in this country. I've been running companies. I've been running brands. I've been a consultant, worked in special projects. There is no question in my mind, South Carolina is the most business-friendly state I've ever worked in, period. And it's because of partners like Ted at Commerce and Danny Black and Department of Agriculture. It just, the support that we've received, they are advocates and partners of ours as opposed to, I'd say, adversaries and opponents. And that's when you can really make magic happen in business, in my opinion. So, I mean, kudos to them. We wouldn't be here and be doing this project if it weren't for all of our partners.
Thank you, Zeb. I mean, I think this entire region, the Carolinas region, is known for deal making, and sometimes that takes flexibility and creativity and thinking outside the box. And I think this project coming here is a perfect example of those forces taking over to make it a reality. So, Ted, we've been waxing poetic about you for a little while now, and so tell us, this is a landmark project, for South Carolina, regardless of industry. I mean, just look at the numbers, right?
Right.
As the state's primary, Department of Commerce, state's primary business recruitment arm, what are you seeing? What is Commerce seeing when it comes to project activity in the food and beverage industry? What are some of the trends?
Oh, Tushar, it's been significantly growing over the past few years. We've got a slide we can throw up there now of our activity in the past month, and this is just from March. We do an analysis of the number of projects that we've got in each of our sectors, and as you can see, the agribusiness sector there at 11% of all of our project activity is strong compared to automotive, which is our other strong sector. So it fares well. I mean, it's a very active sector, and that's the one area that I focus on, as you know. And so I've got other colleagues that are supporting us. But no, this has been a trend, particularly over the last 10 years. We've got a relationship with the Department of Agriculture that we've cemented and put in place to do more active business development and promotion of this sector. And I think it's paying off. The state's proud of having many marquee companies in the food and beverage sector. It's only growing. And as Zeb pointed out, with COVID, what's been going on, the activity is only getting better. The pipeline last year when March came along, we all expected to be hit pretty hard, but it only increased. And this year seems to be picking up where we left off in terms of activity.
Thank you, Ted. Are there, you talked about kind of a hand in glove relationship with the Department of Agriculture, which Laura will talk about more specific detail.
Mhm.
Is there a particular aspect? I mean, the agribusiness, food and beverage industry, so vast. Is there a particular aspect that the South Carolina Department of Commerce tends to focus a little bit more on from an expertise perspective versus other areas?
Well, I mean, our bread and butter is in manufacturing, processing, and distribution. So that's kind of our core competency in terms of industry support. And so food and beverage processing and manufacturing is where we can help out. And we've got a testament to the companies that are here that are doing that. But I think this relationship we've got with the Department of Agriculture, and then of course they're looking into in support of a controlled environment agriculture is something new to us, but it's paying off. We're getting more activity from these types of companies. Of course, the ATC campus there in Hampton is a perfect example of the combination of pure agriculture along with a processing facility, added value, distribution. So it's a perfect blend of bringing agriculture and processing and manufacturing together to produce a product.
Thank you, Ted. Laura, South Carolina Department of Agriculture, such an important part of this project as well. Before we focus in on the agriculture technology campus center itself, can you tell us a little bit more about South Carolina's statewide agribusiness portfolio?
Sure, and I think we also have a slide that'll kind of highlight some of our top cash crops in the state for you all. But this project, and obviously agriculture in general, is something we're very excited about at the Department of Ag, and I think that goes without saying. But while the temperate climate of South Carolina certainly presents its challenges, that climate that's so appealing to tourists and others that want to make South Carolina home really makes this region conducive for growing a wide portfolio of crops. And this project, ATC in particular, and projects like this, of course, are going to allow us to continue to grow that portfolio. So you see some of our top, again, commodities here in the state of South Carolina, poultry being number one, which we're very proud of here in the Palmetto State, of course, but a few that aren't on the slide that we really hang our hat on and kind of go hand in glove with this project in particular is that fruit and veg sector. So South Carolina is only second to California in peach production. So we do like to tout ourselves as the tastier peach state, and also ranking consistently amongst, the top 5 in the production of other fruit and veg crops. And then, of course, I'd be remiss to not give a shout out to our friends over in forestry, because they certainly make up a significant portion of the agribusiness cluster as well. So quite diverse here.
So we've heard the term, thanks, Laura. We've heard the term controlled environment agriculture. Why is ag, as I like to call it, South Carolina Department of Agriculture, why is it so focused on controlled environment agriculture?
Yeah, so personally, I wish I could take credit for kind of pioneering these efforts. Unfortunately, I can't, but you've heard Zeb in the video earlier. You heard from Commissioner Weathers, and you heard Zeb mention our current Director of Agribusiness Development, Jack Schuler, and they were really the visionaries behind controlled environment agriculture in South Carolina, and really did their homework. Zeb referenced that white paper to see if this could be a viable industry in our state. And what we learned, and as a result, obviously, of this project, what we know is that it can, in fact, be that. And it's a priority for us and an area of interest in particular, because what we know is that the global population is continuing to increase. And while we still have a fairly abundant amount of arable land here in South Carolina, we all know they're not making any more land. So with that continued growth in population, we're going to have to find a way to continue providing food for our consumers. And the beauty of this project in particular, and obviously our location along that in the Southeast, makes it really appealing for us, because we know that consumers want healthy, safe, and nutritious products that are locally grown. And this project is going to offer all of that.
Thank you, Laura. Earlier Ted mentioned a partnership with the Department of Agriculture, and I think it's pretty innovative. Certainly, I do work throughout the region, and I'm not aware of too many of these kinds of formal type relationships. Can you expound a little bit upon that? But then also, as I understand it, your organization is working on something statewide that might be of interest to folks.
Sure. So we think our relationship with the Department of Commerce here in South Carolina is certainly unique and something that's very beneficial to the state, of course, but particularly companies that are here or are looking to relocate or establish here in South Carolina. But the partnership really allows us to adequately utilize the resources that both of our agencies offer and also capitalize on our knowledge and our expertise. Our agency, of course, being our expertise being in ag. So, it's no secret that South Carolina is a smaller state. And I think Tushar and Zeb as well, y'all indicated this earlier, but the network here in the Palmetto State is really second to none. And because our partners are so readily accessible, it really allows us to be able to work effectively and ultimately move the needle. And so you mentioned some of the things that we have going on as an agency. So Commissioner Weathers, again, is very much a visionary and wants to really have a roadmap for the future. We want to make sure that agribusiness remains our #1 industry in South Carolina. And, the infographic that we threw up there just a bit ago, while it's great, in my opinion, it kind of does a poor job of demonstrating what modern ag really looks like in 2021. So the images of the tractor and the big red barn and the farmer with the pitchfork, those are the images that resonate when people think agriculture or think farming. But ATC and controlled environment agriculture, that's what modern agriculture does look like and will continue to look like even more so. So this technology and innovation piece is something that we know is coming and we know is going to be critical and to continuing to develop this industry. So our agency is working on a couple of strategic planning initiatives with many of our partners, many of you on the panel today, to really set that roadmap and make sure that we're going to have a plan in place to continue to grow and diversify the industry, but to also adequately support those that are already here and are making up the agribusiness industry in South Carolina.
Thanks, Laura. Now let's, again, last but not least, let's turn to Danny Black. Danny heads up the Southern Carolina Alliance. Danny, tell us a little bit about your region. I'm not sure everybody that's watching, a lot of us know about it, but tell us a little bit about it and what kind of recent successes you've had.
Sure, Tushar. I appreciate it very much being invited to participate in this. But let me thank you first for the compliment a while ago. You said I was in this business for almost 20 years. This is actually our 25th year this year. So it's been a long time we've been doing this. About our region, we stretch in the southwest corner from Beaufort County, as you mentioned, up to Barnwell County, which is around the Augusta area, and down to Savannah. It's very diverse. We have 7 counties. 1 county is a top tier county with the highest income in the state. Then we have 3 tier 3 counties and 3 tier 4 counties. And to people that don't know, that's the counties that are most challenged with the highest unemployment and the lowest income numbers, as you can imagine. Last year, as many of you have mentioned already, was a tough year with the pandemic, but it was also a great year for us. We had about $370 million worth of investment announced, with just over 2,000 jobs announced, 8 new companies coming to the area with 5 expansions, and obviously ATC played the major role in that. That certainly has improved our numbers for a bad, challenged year in 2020.
Well, and Danny, specifically as to the ATC project, I mean, it's got the, and I think there's a strong possibility that it transforms the Hampton County region and the surrounding areas. Why do you think that that area, your region, was such a good match for a project of this size, scope, and complexity?
Well, first of all, Zeb was brilliant to pick us out to locate his operation in. But you got to remember, this area of the state of South Carolina is agricultural based. We have large farms, we have small farms. Obviously, we have row crops, anything from corn to soybeans to peanuts are very large in the region. We do have a lot of vegetables being grown in the area and fruits too, even in northern Beaufort County. It's a great many farms that do that. But what ATC brings to the area, they're going to be basically located in the geographical center of our 7 counties. And they're going to be affecting more than 3,000 acres in an industrial park that we have access to the rail, the interstate highways, and to both ports, both in Charleston and in Savannah. And ATC is bringing the types of jobs that our industry needs, our people need in this area. They're higher than most of our county incomes, and they certainly will be able to draw people from over 5 counties and into Georgia too to bring in workers.
Excellent, Danny. Well, congratulations to all of you. I know that we have many steps to move forward on this project, and one thing's for certain, I know this crowd and others will be working together to make this amazing idea a reality for the region. So thanks again. I don't see any questions in the chat. I do see some hilarious commentary, but nothing on topic. So we will thank you all for your time. Please stay on and view. But I think what we'll do now is we'll shift to our second panel, which is focusing. It's a different take on this altogether. So Emily, I think we'll be shifting folks from, there we go. Bear with us as we work through the tech, people. But yeah, the next project is really, really interesting. It's a different kind of project from what we've just discussed, a different size and scope, but so advanced in so many ways, in different ways. So we will be bringing folks up now. The company is RiceWrap Food Corporation. There we go. We see our guys there. Perfect. Excellent. So let's shift over. Again, this is focused on RiceWrap Food Corporation. And the concept we wanted to talk about here was disruptive innovation. So this session is focused on the growing sushi rice cluster, or I should say market, throughout the country, and what's been the amazing things that have been happening in North Carolina with this project. It is quite frankly an industry disruptor. I'm not sure if you all know about the concept. It's a business school concept of disruptive innovation. In business theory, it's an innovation that creates a new market and value network, and eventually disrupts an existing market and value network. The Harvard Business Journal actually coined the phrase back in the mid-90s. But examples would be personal computers, smartphones, ride sharing, 3D printing. Those are all electric component type disruption examples. This is not that. This is food based, but no less disruptive and interesting. So let me introduce our panelists. First, we have John Scavarla, one of my colleagues, who is an amazing font of information from everything from business to law. He's a senior governmental relations advisor for Nexsen Pruet right now, and he's in our Raleigh office. He previously served for 2 years as the Secretary of Commerce in North Carolina, and then was also a successful business executive, amongst many other things. We could spend a whole session on your bio, John. And then we have Richard Cronk. Richard was a developer. It's a fascinating story, which I hope he'll share. A developer, then got into the restaurant business, and then shifted in maybe a high stakes game of poker, but shifted into this industry. And the results will speak for themselves, and you'll see that. Started as a Kickstarter campaign and has grown to where it is now. And then we've got Harry Mills. Harry's the Economic Development Director in Granville County, North Carolina. He's been running that shop since 2014, and it is a gem right on the border between North Carolina and Virginia. And for all of us in this business, we know what a boon that is for a community to be able to pull resources and individuals from those communities, from those areas. So John, let's start with you. So you bring, as I said, a vast background, varied background in economic development projects. You were Secretary of Commerce. You were also Secretary of the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality. Worked with so many industries. Help us understand the sushi market itself. I'm not sure folks realize how competitive and large a market this is.
Well, Tushar, thank you for the kind words, none of which are deserved, but I'm delighted to be here today. Sushi is, and sushi rice especially, is an amazing phenomenon. It's a multi-billion-dollar worldwide market. And for years, the mechanism to produce sushi rice and sushi has been labor intensive. And what Richard has done is I equate to the formula to Coca-Cola. He has developed a process that has been unsuccessfully tried for 100 years to freeze the rice. And in so doing, he's able to mass produce the product, thaw it in 20 minutes, and create a product that feels like and tastes like it's freshly made. And this is disruptive by every stretch of the imagination in a multi-billion-dollar market. And it certainly wasn't something that he did overnight. It took him years to develop. It took a lot of courage and a lot of fortitude to stick with it. But today, he is able to not only produce the rice on a mechanized basis, but to freeze it and have it last up to a year, thaw it in 20 minutes, and it tastes absolutely fresh. And the response that I have seen personally from the industry is absolutely amazing. And this is his capability is to take someone with virtually no training versus in Japan, a 7-year apprenticeship, make sushi and sushi rice, 5 years of which is dedicated to the rice. It is truly remarkable and a great, candidly, a great honor to be associated with Richard and what he's done.
Thank you, John. And I think a perfect time to move to Richard, because we're talking about disruptive innovation. But your background, and John intimated this, but your background was also, and how you got to where you are was also a bit of disruptive, what I would call evolution, instead of disruptive innovation, from where you started to where you are, and maybe some of the challenges you had along the way, but now, especially as compared to where you are now. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how the project came to be? And Richard, you are on mute. You're pulling the classic Tushar move here, and so there you go. Perfect. Thank you, Richard.
Geez, I don't know. Was going to college during Vietnam real briefly, had a low draft number. When that finally ended, I took off and was a ski bum in Colorado for 2 years. Left there, came to state, participated in the engineering program, started my own swimming pool company. From there, we evolved into building houses, and then from houses to developing subdivisions. And then, let's see, my last project was building a small private airport, putting in the runway, 12,000 square foot house, totally solar, 15,000 square foot hangar. And while I was there, I decided to lose my sanity completely and start 2 restaurants. That went for about 6-7 years and got out of that. But that's where I realized, this is during the early 2000s, how big sushi was. And everybody always asking, can we have sushi? Can we have sushi? Well, the hardest part about making sushi is the rice. And we tried a couple of times, but were unsuccessful being small restaurants in a rural setting, we couldn't go out and hire trained sushi chefs. It wouldn't have been feasible. A whole lot of health issues when you open up a sushi bar. So anyways, when I finally regained a semblance of sanity and stopped doing the restaurants, I called my son, who was a golf pro down in Hilton Head, assistant golf pro in Hilton Head, and said, Kyle, please come home. I think I got an idea. So I explained to him the craziness of if we could figure a way to make sushi rice, freeze it, and be able to send it out there so that the requirement of actually making it from scratch could be solved. I compare our technology, however you want to look at it, is being very similar to pizza dough. Prior to them learning how to freeze and shape pizza dough, very few places made their own dough and then made their pizza. You didn't see it in grocery stores, et cetera. Now it's a phenomenon where it's very easy for any grocery store to buy the pizza dough already formed, and then they'll have an oven and put the toppings on, and there you have it. So by working with my son, we started in Henderson, North Carolina, in about a 5,000 square foot building. We worked for about 2 to 3 years trying to solve this. A lot of experimentation. I think I probably looked at it more from a analytical engineering type background, more so than any sort of sushi chef, of which of course I am not. And we finally solved it, but at the time we still hadn't gotten enough traction, so we had to bootstrap, leave Henderson, and move to a 2,000 small square foot, basically test kitchen, where we started to actually get quite a bit of traction. We thought we were getting very close to perfecting this. We had picked up different places like the United States Naval Academy, which was a huge client of ours during this time. And because Kyle and I thought we were close enough to really get some sort of major audience, Yoruiki Fresh, which was a Japanese company that started to sell our product online, invited us to come to the Boston Seafood Show. This is 2018, I believe. So we went to the Boston Seafood Show. We were discovered by an individual, the CEO of Bumblebee Foods there. I don't remember meeting him, but about 4 months after the seafood show, he has one of his people reach out to me. He wanted to discuss possibly co-venturing with our rice. He was blown away by the fact that we were able to freeze it. He felt there could be a lot of synergy because they were dealing with sashimi as well. They were selling sushi grade fish, tuna, salmon, etc., not just the canned tuna fish. So anyways, Kyle and I met Chris. He flew in with his culinary VP to our little test kitchen. We met in our huge 10 by 10 conference room and sat down and started to talk about the possibilities. He wanted to know if I'd ever thought of expanding. Well, obviously I had. He left with the idea, okay, try to figure out what 10 to 20% of the marketplace would mean for us and tell me what you would need to do that. Anyways, conversations went on. Make a longer story short, in December, he had pretty much committed to us. I reached out to a friend of mine that's, I don't know, John, I'm not going to say how many years because it'll date us even more than we care to have everyone know, but I reached out to John
and said, John, I think I've got a heck of an opportunity here. Can you, I explained everything to him. I went to his Nexsen Pruet, and their, let's see, their conference room was slightly bigger. I think it was about 20 by 40. And we sat down and we tasted the rice, and he was pretty well blown away that we were able to do this. But like anything, when you're talking about someone the magnitude of bumblebee tuna, it's hard to believe that we're getting close to anything. And I just was told my battery is running low. So I'll try to make this quick. This is crazy. Anyways, John negotiated the deal for us. We got $14 million or $12 million to go out and build a factory. That's where we met Harry. And I designed and built 2 sushi lines. We've had to get equipment from Japan, but we've also pretty much engineered and built our own equipment specific for our needs.
And Richard, speaking of your equipment, I've seen home appliances made, been, aircraft OEMs, automobile OEMs. I've seen those lines, but I've never seen sushi rice being made in this way. This sort of, frozen to fresh. And I think we've got a short video that you can maybe talk us through. That helps us, explains to us what we're looking at, because I'm not sure I know. Certainly, I'm a sushi consumer, not producer.
What you're looking at right now are our 2 main lines. That's a 20 on the left and right side was 2 20-foot heating tunnels where the rice goes in at about 75 degrees in large cooking pots, which you can see being returned to our washer there in the center. It comes out into this area, and this is where we started to get creative. These pots are about 75 pounds. They're coming out of the oven, out of the tunnel at about 240 degrees. We had to figure a way to get it into these mixers that you see. So we developed 2 different lifts. We particularly like this last one. So this is how we lift the rice. It gets dumped into our mixers, and there it goes. And at that point, we add a special vinegar mix, and
that battery may have just finally ended. So I hate to say we've lost. I think we may have lost Richard, but I would take over this part. But I have absolutely no ability to continue this conversation about what I'm looking. Maybe you can, John.
Yeah, what happens is that the rice then goes to a forming area, and they make sheets, they make pillows, they make cups, and then it goes through a freeze process on a conveyor, a quick freeze and packaged. So it comes out either in sheets or cups or pillows, depending on the customer demand. But interestingly enough, to put this in perspective, the 2 lines that he has operational right now can process about 13 million pounds of rice.
Wow.
Every year. And Harry was most instrumental. He has a 90,000 square foot facility in Butner in Granville County, and obviously has not consumed all that space yet. But his capacity to be completely disruptive in the market is infinite. Because as I think I said earlier, the frozen rice can be maintained for about a year, if not longer, and the thaw time is about 20 minutes.
And Emily, you've got a slide, Emily, that shows kind of what the finished product looks like. At least certain examples of it. Would love to put that up. So these are sort of the you can do cups, nigiri, poke bowls. This concept, and it's been fascinating for me to learn about it. John and Harry, this frozen to fresh when it comes to sushi rice, I think is amazing, and could certainly lead to multiple late night snacks for me. If it's just that, if it's as easy as it sounds.
It's not only that easy, it's that good. And I think Tushar, you had a chance to sample it, didn't you?
Not yet. No, not yet, but I'm eagerly anticipating that time. So Harry, Granville County, why was, I've mentioned that, there's a lot going on. Your placement in your county is amazing. You've got some amazing infrastructure and logistics. And Richard, we've got you back. Good to see you.
I'm even disruptive with Nexsen Pruet. What do you think?
hey, it's your brand, my man. Go with it. Go with it.
My sincere apologies.
Not at all. And so I think John did yeoman's work, kind of finishing up for you. And so we're chatting with Harry now.
Okay.
Harry, what about Granville County made this project such a good fit for your area?
Thank you, Tushar, and I'm excited to be here and talk about RiceWrap. What's so intriguing about it, it goes back to Granville County history of agriculture, foods, and all these other things. And when the project first came across the board, and I was thinking, when you see Nexsen Pruet and the team behind it, I'm going, it's got to be a good project. But I had no idea what it was. But it really balances Granville County. I remember one point going to one of our local high schools, two of our local high schools, and that culinary arts program they had. And I always wondered, what are we going to do with those students that are there? And those students who at Advanced Grammar Community College who are sitting here training. And so when it came, I said, this is it. This is something that my kids can rally behind. This is something that can be a part of our community, that it can be more than just a company or industry. It will be part of us. And if you meet Richard, he will just bring you in immediately. I mean, he's just amazing. And so that started my thought process behind that. And as we began to move through it, it was a perfect fit. I remember one time my daughter, a lot of my dollars went towards my daughter's schooling and sushi. And so I figured that I might as well bring a company to Granville County where it would help with that process.
That is funny, Harry. And how, I guess, visionary are you to think about, because I think for the economic developers, wherever you are, some of the things you're thinking about are, how do you keep your best talent home? And how do you provide an input for the talent that's coming out of your universities, colleges, tech schools, other centers of education and learning? So, good on you for being, visionary like that. So tell us about your region, though. I mean, and why, just based on where it's located, why it was such a good fit, and why you've had such success so far, generally.
Thank you again. If you haven't been to Granville County, come on, best place to be in this country. Granville County is a unique place. It sits right on I-85. We have 6 interchanges. Actually, the interchange exchange where Richard is, you can get off and you're right at his site. Our proximity, we are really, I call myself sometimes, we are an RTP suburb. We're that close. You can get from Richard's site and be in downtown Durham in less than 12 minutes.
Yeah.
Our proximity to Virginia, we're surrounded by a lot of Carter regional people. Our workforce is so dynamic because they're coming from everywhere. I remember one of my industries, half of their employees are from Virginia. It's so close. But what's really, I think, our best fit is we have the most dynamic workforce in this country. They are amazing, and the training that our community college provides for them, Advanced Grammar Community College, make us one of the best places to be. And I think when people see that and hear that story and see our location, they understand what they were getting for workforce, which is always top priority. Having product, of course, is great. But our success is because our governing body believes in economic development. They believe in disrupting what may be to others disruptive, but to us it's been opportunity. And so we aggressively seek companies in the industry that want to be a part of us. And I think what closed the deal for us on this particular project is that Richard has some history of Granville County. So it felt like we were dealing with family, but if you have not been, please call me, come take a tour, see our beautiful community, and you would see we're really, really just a dynamic community.
Thank you, Harry. And thanks to all of you. I mean, it's, again, we could go a day on this, and I'm eagerly anticipating trying this product as soon as I get my hands on it. I might just have to keep it to myself. I don't know if I'll share it with my wife. I probably will have to. She's the bigger sushi connoisseur than I am. So, but thanks again. Thanks for your time. Thanks for the partnership that you all have worked on to bring this project to our region. And we look forward to seeing your continued growth and success, both from a business perspective for you, Richard, and a community perspective for you, Harry.
Thank you so much, Tushar.
Absolutely. And so now we'll shift to our third and final panel of the day. And so just give us one brief moment to allow for the tech to kick in. The first two sessions today have been focused on private sector projects, developments. Our third and final session is I'm really excited to speak about this one. Because I learned a lot, frankly, in preparing for this. I did not fully realize what an amazing resource we have in our region in the Carolinas, and specifically in Kannapolis, and in the food innovation industry. So this session is going to be focused on the Food Innovation Lab. I hope you all are aware of it, but if you're not, you're certainly going to be aware of it and remember it after this session. So, North Carolina, just like with South Carolina, massive agriculture and agribusiness footprint and portfolio. It accounts for $87 billion of the state's annual GDP and 17% of all jobs. So we're going to talk about the Food Innovation Lab today with three panelists. We've got John, my colleague, friend and colleague and mentor, John Scavarla, who is joining us again. Then we've got Bill Amutis. Bill is the executive director of the North Carolina Food Innovation Lab. He's led the facility since it was merely a seedling in 2018 and is one of the most experienced in food scientists in the country. Celeste Brogdon is the director of development for the North Carolina Food Innovation Lab. Additionally, she is also the executive director of special projects for the NC State College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. Storied career in the food area, and actually worked with the North Carolina Food Manufacturing Task Force that was created by Governor McCrory. So let's start. Let's dive in. Exciting, as I said. So John, again, your experience speaks for itself. Before we talk about the Food Innovation Lab itself, though, it is part of a bigger research campus that I'm not sure all of our viewers are aware of, although we all should be. And I know we've got a slide that kind of gives a general sense of the scope. Can you tell us a little bit about the North Carolina Research Campus, John?
Well, the thing almost speaks for itself. When you're buying a car or buying a house, curb appeal is very important. Just to walk up to this campus, it's breathtaking, even to the point where Kannapolis has built a facility for its municipal operations that's part of this campus. It is so inspiring. And the idea is to be a world leader in innovation on all fronts. Universities are involved, the state of North Carolina is involved, the Department of Agriculture is involved, municipalities involved. A new baseball stadium has been built right next to the campus. This is something that is a worldwide phenomenon. And certainly what Bill and Celeste are doing is a worldwide phenomenon because it probably is the finest of its kind in the world.
And John, I know the research campus, I think it's around 350 acres, if I'm not mistaken, which is massive. But what was so interesting to me was, when we think of research centers, we think about all kinds of research, right? This is solely focused on trying to improve human health through research into nutrition and agriculture, which again, I just thought was, I mean, do you remember what the brainchild was for this to begin with?
It goes back a long time, and certainly in 2014-15 is when it's really started to get legs. And I was very fortunate to be part of a task force that was put together by Governor McCrory. And the culminating event, obviously, was the creation of this innovation lab. And certainly in getting the folks involved that they have, could be the best representatives that could be available in the world to do this. I know, Tushar, we have introduced Bill and Celeste to the folks in South Carolina, and they came up, and I think they were duly impressed. And I think that there's been a high degree of cooperation, certainly to date and intended between the two, because this is a phenomenon that is infinite in its capability.
I've heard the same thing, John. And before we're certainly going to ask Bill and Celeste some questions, but before we do that, we've got a short video we'd love to play that just, again, it's a tip of the iceberg when it comes to this facility, but we're going to play it now.
The North Carolina Food Innovation Lab was created by our General Assembly and funded by our General Assembly with the intent of working on plant-based foods and helping entrepreneurs and multinational companies get engaged in that particular industry. We oftentimes see entrepreneurs come in with one or two really great ideas, but they haven't thought about what's next. And with the product failure rate for new products, they really need to think about what is next, and they want to make themselves attractive to venture capitalists and other investors. So what we try to do is help them to realize what it is that they need to do to get the best product line, not just a product. We had said we couldn't do this with just entrepreneurs because there's a limited number of entrepreneurs that are really plant-based focused at this point. But the multinationals are also very interested in this facility.
Developing new products or even line extensions requires a lot of different hats, from purchasing your ingredients to the food safety to actually developing the product on the bench and then scaling it up larger scale. All those things are skills that we use here at the North Carolina Food Innovation Lab.
Here's what I would recommend. Go to the website. This is just a grain of sand in a desert of information that's available to the North Carolina Food Innovation Lab's website. Lots of videos, a fascinating aerial of the facility itself, sort of a map, a site plan of the facility, and that's interactive. I spent some time on it, so please do that, and hopefully we can get the technological issue worked out as we go further here. But so Bill and Celeste both, tell us a little bit about how did it come to be, the Food Innovation Lab itself?
Well, John alluded to it. In 2014, the North Carolina General Assembly commissioned an economic feasibility study to evaluate food manufacturing's potential in our state. The study predicted that in less than 10 years, food manufacturing could contribute an additional 38,000 jobs and $10.3 billion as a boost to the state income. So that certainly got a lot of attention. In reaction to that, as John alluded to, in April of 2015, Governor McCrory established the North Carolina Food Manufacturing Task Force, which brought together thought leaders representing various aspects of the North Carolina food system. And John was then the Secretary of Commerce and was a voting member of that task force. Two major outcomes came out of that recommendation, out of that task force. One was to create a position that was dedicated to attracting food manufacturing industry to this state. It was actually established through EDPNC. Mary Lisa Pegg has that position right now. And the other was to establish a statewide interdisciplinary interagency effort to promote food manufacturing. And that's how this facility was born. We had some visionaries in the General Assembly, the late Linda Johnson and Senators Brent Jackson and Paul Newton were the spearhead. They created a committee that was chaired by Commissioner Troxler, and it was titled the North Carolina Food Processing Innovation Center. And that committee was the one that oversaw the creation of the business plan, oversaw the stewardship of funds, and had they actually had a representative on the search committee for the executive director as well.
Thank you, Celeste. I mean, I think that shows innovation is often the byproduct of visionaries, and so kudos to the General Assembly in North Carolina and others who funded and pushed this initiative forward. As I understand it, this facility is almost completely focused on plant-based food innovation. Why focus on that specifically?
When the task force took a look at the crop situation in the state of North Carolina, we quickly realized that around 80 to 85 different crops at that time were being grown in the state. And that didn't include some of the minor crops like herbs and mushrooms, but that 85% of that was actually leaving the state for further processing. So as that task force recommended, it should be a facility focused on plant-based food in order for us to attract companies to come into the state to process the fruits and vegetables that we grow here in the state instead of sending it out of the state. Fortuitously, that was about the time the whole plant-based food movement was actually starting to kick off also. And over the past 5 years, we've been seeing roughly 20% compounded annual growth on plant-based foods. Of course, the last year during the pandemic, we've actually seen it spike up considerably because people were starting to look for healthier foods, and they were turning away from foods that were questionable as far as health was concerned. So we actually saw plant-based foods spike up at a growth rate of about 45% during the middle of the pandemic. And it's kind of drifted back down now to we're seeing still about 23 to 24% compounded annual growth in that sector.
So I know there are so many services the Food Innovation Lab provides, but as I understand it, there are essentially 4 general categories in which you provide services. Can you share a little bit with our viewers about what those areas of services are?
Of course, the biggest one is product research and development, or product development. We can work with entrepreneurs as well as multinational food companies, basically all the way from the start of an idea, or even just if they come in with a product idea, we can take it all the way through the manufacturing process and get it ready for consumer sales. If they don't have much of an idea, we can help them develop that idea. But then as we take the ideas, we bring them into our product development lab and build out what most people have are recipes when they come into us. They're not really formulas that we would want to manufacture and could afford to put into the marketplace. So we end up modifying a lot of the recipes into formulas. We then have a pilot plant that can take that formula that's developed in our product development lab and manufacture it into a finished product. We also do a fair amount of consulting to the industry. Food companies run into problems all the time. And most all the industries have very good people to identify the problem and solve the problem. But once in a while, they look for a third party to give them some help on that. So we also do some consulting. Under the new Food Safety Modernization Act, I guess it's not new, it's 10 years old this year. It's required that food companies retrain their employees on a regular basis. So we've also, after this pandemic is over, we can go back to face-to-face training. We'll actually be offering courses to the food industry to keep people up to date on the latest technologies and latest regulatory frameworks that are evolving, in things like allergens, sanitation, how do you put together a good manufacturing plant, just any one of a number of things. We also will be offering some courses to entrepreneurs of how to start a food plant in the state of North Carolina. The other pieces of our facility, we have a commercial kitchen, which, anytime you manufacture a product, at some point it's going to be cooked. So we have a very nice, well-equipped commercial kitchen. We've actually had restaurateurs approach us about developing some recipes for their restaurants. So we offer that as a service also. And then we in order to help entrepreneurs launch their products, we have a professional photographer that can shoot still shots and videos and help get those products out into the internet in a more timely manner, maybe for some of them.
Sounds like a one-stop shop for food innovation. So that's amazing. As I understand it, you're not limited by state boundaries, if I'm not mistaken. And so, how, Celeste, Bill, how would a viewer or anyone, frankly, how do they, I guess, start a conversation with the Food Innovation Lab to figure out whether there's a fit there and maybe a potential co-working type arrangement?
A lot of people come through our website. They'll Google us and end up popping up on a Google search, and they'll visit our website, and we have a form there that they can very simply fill out, and then we'll reach back out to them to speak with them and see what their needs are. We usually do a quick screening call just to see if there is something there we could help them with. If it appears that we indeed can help them, then we go into a more lengthy conversation and outline the project that they want to do, and then we'll supply them with a budget to do that project. We've been doing a little bit of I would call it guerrilla marketing through the use of social media, as well as before the COVID thing hit. We were actually a lot of key food entrepreneur meetings, also building a large network. And I've been in the industry for a number of years. You can tell by the gray hair on my head. So I have a pretty extensive network out there also that we can tap into on a lot of occasions.
Well, Bill, you still have a youthful glow. I think we can all agree about that. So, for both of there may be a question for both of you, but this is the Food Innovation Lab, huge role in the development of food innovation in our region, in the Southeast. And frankly, across country lines even, because you've received interest from multinationals. I mean, you've both been in this space for a while, whether it's Food Innovation Lab or before that. I mean, what is your personal vision for what the Carolinas' ability when it comes to pushing this kind of innovation in the food and beverage industry? What is your personal vision or hope for what could be coming in the years ahead?
I guess I'll answer that question. We work in a partnership with the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina, the Department of Ag. NC State's really the managing partner for this facility. But our vision long-term is to attract more venture capital money into the state of North Carolina, or into the Carolinas in general, that's willing to fund a lot of the food entrepreneurs that are starting to pop up, so to speak, in our regions. Given the fact that both states are very strong from the agricultural perspective, you made the comment earlier that we do see a vision of the potential for the Carolinas to be kind of the food valley for the country, not taking anything away from California, but certainly we have a little bit more flexibility in some of our environmental standards here in the two Carolinas. We have certainly the intellectual horsepower between the two states from the work that's been going on for a couple of decades now in the biomedical and ag tech areas. And so now with the nutrition technology, the plant science initiative at NC State, we really create that whole triad of power to look at, especially into the plant-based food area, but even just general food technology. And so our vision again is to be the food corridor for the country, if not part of the world. And certainly we have the crops to supply that.
And I understand, the Food Innovation Lab is still somewhat in its infancy, just putting aside the remarkable developments so far. Is there a success story that you can share that's maybe come through the Food Innovation Lab itself?
Celeste, you want to take that one, or you want me to?
I think you pick your favorite.
Okay. So one of our very first customers here at the Food Innovation Lab was a small startup company in Cornelius, North Carolina called BarbVQ, VEQE. So play on the letters there. Led by a gentleman named Lee Cooper, who had immense success in his former life, much like Richard did. He started as an engineer, started a company, spun it out, sold it, and then he decided he wanted to get into something that he felt really passionate about. Plant-based foods was one of his passions. So Lee created a way and a formulation to create barbecue that was plant-based. And he was like a lot of entrepreneurs in that he didn't rest upon just having that first formula going out and being successful. He kept working on it, and now he's created a new way of actually making a plant-based protein product that he can season, and it very closely mimics pork barbecue. He recently announced that they're going to expand their operation. He started out kind of like a little storefront, and I don't even think he had 500, 600 square feet to begin with. Eventually bought the facility next door to him and expanded to maybe 1,000 square feet. But now we're in the development phase, and we're working closely with him on the plant layout and equipment that will go into that facility. He will become one of the largest, if not the largest, plant-based smokehouse in the country. So he is expanding quite rapidly.
Wow.
And he's had a lot of interest from the likes of NASCAR. A number of celebrities have bought into his products, and his potential for growth is very good. He's successfully landed a couple of $1 million in venture capital funding, and he's about to go out for another round.
Wow. Well,
if I can interject, Tushar,
please.
Obviously, Dick Richard is looking very seriously and very closely at the protein in his sushi being to a great degree plant-based. So it's not just fish. There's a real movement for shrimp and products like that are plant-based that are very good. And he certainly will have a great component of plant-based protein in the sushi.
Wow, that's interesting. And Bill, I have to ask, is it this product you mentioned ketchup based, vinegar based, or mustard based? We got to know.
He's got both.
Okay, well, both. So you mean vinegar and ketchup?
Yeah, but he's also got a good mustard one.
Oh, good. Smart guy.
He's got some other tricks up his sleeve coming out also pretty soon.
Well, that is attracted some commentary in the chat as to preferences on barbecue. I'm a vinegar guy myself, but anyway. So all right. Well, thank you all. We've gone a little bit long. Appreciate everybody that's been able to stick with us, and certainly appreciate all your time. Again, we could have gone a lot longer on all of these topics, and I'm sorry about the technological issues. In the chat, we have circulated the link to the website, and we'll follow up as well with more information about all of our speakers. Again, exciting things happening, exciting things to come in the food and beverage industry in the Carolinas, in our region. Please take a look for a survey in your inbox. We're always trying to improve these. And please do, if you can, join us for the workforce issues in the food and beverage manufacturing industry. That's coming up a week from today, same time. So again, thank you. Have a wonderful Friday and be safe.